here's what we're going to do. We're learning two new rules today. The first rule, I'm going to teach you with the calculator. Okay. So I want y'all to grab your calculator real quick. Okay. And I want you to go to regular calculator. Now, guys, sleeping's one thing, but if you cover your head up and somebody walks in, I'm going to get in trouble. So you can't cover your head up. You can't cover your head up. You can lie your head down. I'll leave you alone, but you can't cover your head up because then I get in trouble. JoJo, you can't cover your head up. So on this right here, I got to teach you, we're going to talk about zero exponents today. Now, at first, this is going to be kind of confusing, but to me, this is the coolest rule of all. Okay. I want you to type in a number like 3. Okay. So type in 3 real quick. And then I want you to hit the exponent symbol and type in a 0. Okay. Type in a 0. Now, you would think because of multiplication, like the answer would be 0, wouldn't it? Okay. You're like, oh, it's, 3 times 0 would be 0. So now you do that, we're going to have issues there. You don't get to disrupt the class. Be smart. All right. So 3 to the 0, hit enter. What do you get? 1. Yeah. So that's kind of weird, isn't it? 3 to the 0 becomes 1. But here's the cool part. Type in 25 to the 0. What do you get? 1. Now, you don't have to do this, but I always love doing this. So what, 100 million right there? I don't know. I just typed in a whole bunch of zeros, right? To the 0 power, guess what the answer is going to be? 1. Every single time that you got something to the 0 power, it always becomes 1. That includes letters. So you had x to the 0, it's 1. Okay? So this is my favorite rule of all the rules because it just becomes 1. And usually that 1 just kind of disappears because 1 times anything becomes itself. So that's our first rule we're going to talk about today. The second rule is the one that's going to be a little bit more confusing. And I'm just going to dive into it. All right. So I tried to do an explanation. I think I just lost kids. So I'm just going to dive into it. So anytime that you're dealing with exponents, you're going to start off drawing a fraction bar. And I know you don't know why, but we're going to do it. So number 1, I want you to draw a fraction bar right here. So draw that fraction bar. Okay, now I want you to see right here, it says that the answer can contain only positive exponents. Now remember, exponents are the little number. We don't care about the big number. We're talking about the little number. Answers can only contain positive exponents. So see these little numbers right here? They can't be negative. So that's what we got to deal with today is these negative exponents. And so we have a rule that says that you can make this positive, okay? Before we get to that rule, I do need to talk about one thing. Exponents only affect what they're directly next to. So this -1 only affects this x. This -1 is not next to that 2 right there. That -1 has nothing to do with that 2. Does everybody understand that part right there? The exponent only affects what's directly next to it, okay? It does not affect like things that are 2 things away or whatever, okay? So this 2, does that 2 have an exponent with it? No, that 2 doesn't have an exponent with it. So we're going to take that 2. Technically, everything right now is on top. There's technically a fraction bar right here, even though you don't see it. We're going to leave that 2 on top right there because that 2 is just a regular 2. All right. So here's the new rule. Anytime that we have a negative exponent, a negative little number, we can make this little number become positive if we flip it over a fraction bar. Okay, now, like I said, there's technically a fraction bar right here, and technically this is on top. So I can take this x to the -1 and I can flip it to the bottom and make it positive like that right there. Okay, so that's kind of a weird rule. And what happens is I teach you this rule with the negative little numbers, people want to start applying it to the big numbers. This only applies to the little bitty numbers, okay, the exponents, okay? Now, this y to the -2, can I have a y to the -2? No, can't have a negative little number. So how do I make it positive? I flip it to the bottom and make it positive. So you flip it. All these today will be on the top and they'll flip to the bottom. If they were on the bottom, they would flip to the top. But they flip across the fraction bar and they become positive. That's it. You're done. This is your final answer. Now, if I wasn't teaching this to you, how long would it take me to do this? I mean, as long as it takes you to write it, because you would draw the fraction bar, you'd be 2's on top, x to the first on the bottom, y to the second on the bottom, done. So as somebody that knows the rules, I love it because it's quick and easy. Okay, in algebra 2, I would call this an easy problem. In algebra 1, because we don't have a lot of time to practice these rules, it's still tough. Okay, all right, so number 2, draw a fraction bar. We're going to go to each individual thing and we're going to decide, does it stay on top? It's already on top right now. Does it stay on top or is it going to flip to the bottom? So this 3 right here, does it have an exponent? No. Okay, doesn't have an exponent, so it's going to stay where it's at. It's going to stay on top. Jojo. All right, x to the negative 2. Are you allowed to have that negative 2? Is the little number allowed to be negative? No. Little numbers are not allowed to be negative. So how do we make it positive? We flip it. So it's going to flip to the bottom and become a positive 2. All right, y to the 3rd power. Okay, that's positive. Is that okay? Yeah, positive exponents are okay. So it's just going to stay where it's at. Right now it's on top. It's going to stay on top. Okay, then we talked about stuff to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power becomes a what? A 1. Now, on this problem and on this problem only, I'm going to mark this off and I'm going to put a 1. Normally, I just mark it off. I never put a 1. I'm going to put a 1 because I'm going to talk about 1 times 3 is what? 3. And so if 1 times 3 is 3, then I can get rid of that 1 right there. Okay? So, do you need a hug today or something? You're grabbing my attention a lot. Huh? Do what?
Music too loud.
Yeah, music too loud. I just figured you needed my attention. Craving attention today. All right. Number 3. Okay, we went through everything. So like I said, from now on, I won't ever write the 1. The 1 almost always disappears. If there's nothing next to it, then you would write the 1. So if there was nothing for it to multiply to, you would write the 1. But other than that, if there's stuff around it, it just disappears. And so normally when we see something to the 0, we just mark it off. Draw a fraction bar. All right, can anybody tell me if the 2 goes on the top or the bottom? The top, it stays on top. It's already on top, stays there. We don't mess with the big numbers. So remember, where kids start to mess up is they want to start taking these rules with the little numbers and they want to start applying it to the big numbers. And that's what gets a lot of people. That's why it takes some practice. Okay, now, the z. Does the z have an exponent? No, that negative 3 does not go with that z. So will the z stay on top or flip to the bottom? Stays on top. Okay. So if it's positive or if it doesn't have a negative, then we just leave it alone. We don't mess with it. Okay, x to the negative 3. Are we allowed to have that negative 3? No, can't have a negative. So where does it flip? To the bottom. And when we flip it, now this is important, you've got to make it positive. So a couple of years ago, I had this kid, and he's like, Coach, I think I'm getting this. I'm like, hey, that's awesome. And so I give him this question. And so he flips it. Well, when he flips it, he leaves it negative. And he looks at his answer and he's like, wait a second, there's a negative exponent there. I'm not allowed to have that. So he rewrites it and he flips it back up to the top. And when he does, he leaves it negative. And then he's like, wait a second, it's not allowed to have a negative exponent. So he rewrites it again and he flips it to the bottom. And like, he had this page full of all these where he's just flipping it back and forth, back and forth. He's like, Coach, this is never going to end. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. When you flip it, make it positive so that you can stop. So Make sure when you flip it that it becomes positive and then you're done. All right, y to the 0 becomes a 1, right? Anything to the 0 becomes a 1. But what are we going to do? We're just going to mark it off. Anything to the 0 power just marks off, because that 1, technically, it should be 1 times 2, which is 2. So I've already got the 2 there. I don't need to worry about it. So I'm curious, because I didn't go into the deep explanation, which confused everybody last period. Is this kind of making a little bit of sense? No? Okay. All right. Well, I was just trying to see. Last period, I think I confused everybody with over-explaining it. So I thought maybe today, in this class, if I under-explained it, it might get a little bit better. All right. So draw a fraction bar for number 4. All right. Where's the 3 go? On top. Where does x to the negative 2 go? Oh, there's the rain. Y'all know we were expecting rain today. You hear it. So, can't hear it. I don't mind if you turn the fan on. Just don't face it towards everybody else. It'll circulate the air if you just go turn it on. It's facing the wall, and it'll circulate the air. But all right, and then the z squared. Does the z squared flip? No, z squared stays where it's at because it's already positive, and that's your answer right there. So all you gotta do is turn it on. It's facing the wall, but it will circulate the air and it'll make it feel better. Yeah, just turn it once. There you go. It won't. You won't feel it because it's facing the wall. So, but anyways, Jojo, listening. All right. So, I've been a teacher for a long time, and so in that time, I've seen kids make mistakes over and over and over again, and they always tend to make the same mistakes. So what I did was I created 2 problems where I said, these are the most common mistakes that I've seen. Do what? Whatever. So, number 5, there's a mistake here. I want to see if you can figure it out. Now, if you can't figure it out, then here's what I want you to do. We're going to do it the right way. So if you can see the mistake, that's awesome. But if not, let's just work it out. And as we work it out the right way, you'll see the mistake. Okay. So right now, looking at this, this was the original problem. This is what the kid put down. This is wrong. So we want to figure out why it's wrong. So if you don't know why it's wrong, then let's just start working it out. Let's start with the first -3. Is the -3 going to stay on top or go to the bottom? It goes to the bottom. Why? Okay, so the number 1 mistake that people make is they take the rules for the little bitty numbers. This is what they did here. They take the rules for the little bitty numbers and they apply it to big numbers. Okay. Now I want you to think about this. Before today, have you ever had a negative number before? Yeah, you've had negative numbers all the time, right? Have we ever taken that negative number, flipped it, and made it positive? No, because it was a big number. We don't mess with big numbers. Okay. So just because the -3 is negative doesn't mean we flip it. Does it have a negative little number with it? No, it doesn't have any little numbers with it. Remember, this -4 doesn't go with all this. It only goes with the x. This -3 stays on top. Does that make sense? So you don't apply that rule of flipping negatives to big numbers. It's only to the little numbers. So you can see what starts to make this a little bit confusing now, right? Now, if you practice this, you get good at it and it's easy. But when you first learn it, it's really easy to make these kind of little mistakes. All right, now, the x to the -4, that does need to flip to the bottom. And so that would be the mistake. So I want y'all to write this down right here. So we're not necessarily going to say what happened. We're just going to write it correctly. Okay. All right, number 6. So on this one right here, once again, instead of worrying about what exactly wrong, let's just start working it out and see what happens. All right, so that 4, is it going to stay on top or bottom? Top, right. Most of the time, you're never going to mess with your big numbers, okay? You're never going to mess with the big numbers, okay? There will be some times that we mess with the big numbers, but it will be like working out a fraction or something like that. It'll be normal stuff. Okay, what about the x? Stay on top or flip to the bottom? So you said stay on top, right? So I said, yeah. So does the x have an exponent with it? No, that exponent only goes with the y. So remember, the exponent only goes with what's directly next to it, okay? Not over here. So the x doesn't have an exponent. I mean, it does, but it's not negative. Technically, everything has a 1 exponent at least, but it's not negative, so it goes on top. What about y to the negative 3? Where's that going to go? The bottom. So we cannot have y to the negative 3, so we'll put that there. And then anything to the 0, it becomes a what? 1, and we just scratch it out because, oh, do y'all see what they did here? Okay, so we scratched this out because 1 times 4 is 4, right? They put the 1 right there and made it look like 41. Did y'all see what they did there? Okay, and then of course, they flipped the x on the bottom because they thought all this was connected together. Okay, and it's not. The y and the x are totally separate. All right, Jojo, you're doing too much. You're gonna end up losing that phone today, bud. So you're gonna end up losing your phone today. I'm having to babysit because of it too much today. All right. So, guys, I don't know if you think this is easy or not. If you don't stress over it. All of Unit 5, not just today, all of Unit 5 makes up 1 or 2 questions on the STAR test. Okay? Am I worried about 1 or 2 questions on the STAR test? No. If you can get it, that's great. If you can't, where this really makes your life easier is when you get to Algebra 2. When you get to Algebra 2, if you can do this, life is so much easier. Now, with that being said, I want to get to the review. I know we have a lot more questions. I want to get to the review. Yeah, same thing as yesterday. You did good yesterday. Make sure you get there and back. And all right, now some bad things about today. Because we don't have a lot of time, I'm going to skip around a lot because there's certain questions I desperately want to get to. Here you go. So here's what's going to happen. Some of these, we're just flat going to skip. I'm going to be like, oh, that's hard. We'll get C. We'll skip it, okay? Some of these I'm going to talk about, but I'm not going to take the time to do it, okay? But we're going to talk about it. And then the ones that I really need to get to, then we're actually going to do them. So for instance, number 1, we talked about this yesterday. So I am not going to work this out, okay? But this should be easy. What makes this easy? What do y'all see that makes number 1 easy? Yeah, that f of x, anytime you got 2 letters back to back, it becomes a y. And anytime we have a y equals, we plug that in the calculator. So you would type this. Now, we're not going to do it. I don't want y'all to do it because we got other things we're moving to. But we would type this into the calculator, hit menu 5-1. They give you a random number. You type in that number and see what happens. And what happens is when you type in -3, it would give you the y, and the y would be the answer. So we did that yesterday. I'm not going to worry about it. Look at number 2. Now, number 2, I probably will work this all the way out. First off, anytime it says parallel to the y-axis or x-axis, the only way to get the true answer is to draw a picture. If you're not going to draw a picture, then at some point you're going to be guessing. That's just how it is, okay? But you can eliminate 2 of these, and that's what I want to talk about, okay? Anytime they give you the letter and a number, so they give you x and a number, and that's it. the letter has to match the number in its spot. Okay? So for X has to match what number? 8. So what can we mark off real quick? X equals 9. Doesn't make any sense. If they just give us a Y, then the Y has to match the 9. So we can mark off C. So if you know that little trick, now you may not know what to do, but you got a 50-50 shot of getting it right. Okay? So how do you get it right? Like I said, you got to draw a picture. So they say the y-axis, you got to draw the y-axis right here. What would a line parallel to it look like? It would look like this. And then you got to go back to our poster of Hoy and Bucks. Would this line right here look like Hoy or Bucks? Bucks. So if it's Bucks, then that means it has to have an X. So the answer would be A. If you don't know Hoy and Bucks, you're not going to draw the picture, then at least try to eliminate the 2 and get it down to where you're guessing between A and B. 3 is tough. Here's the one thing I want to make sure everybody knows, because I'm still seeing this happen. Can you plug this in the calculator and under graphs? No. Y is not by itself. I get a lot of kids that plug this in the calculator into graphs and then try to do something. You can't do that. Either you got to get Y by itself, you got to know, the cover-up method, or you're guessing C on this one. Okay. Slope is something a lot of y'all can do. I want to remind you that we have a cheat sheet right over here, okay, where it says slope of ordered pairs and tables. It tells you that the formula is y minus y over x minus x. And over here it says we always circle the y's. Because if you will subtract the y's on top, you'll usually get the answer right. Not always, but usually. And then the x's go on bottom. I'm not going to run this through the calculator. The answer is B. If you can do that, great. If you can't do that, what are you going to guess? C. We don't consider this to be easy. Okay. However, in this class in particular, we have a lot of kids that are pretty strong. And a lot of y'all could do this. So I don't want to just skip over this one. So, like I said, I wanted to remind us so that I think a lot of y'all can do that. All right, we talked about this yesterday, so we're just briefly going to discuss this. This is a regular equation. All it has is x's. Where do we put regular equations? Well, just one regular equation. Menu 3-1. This is insult. We're not doing it. I don't want you to worry about it. If you've already done it or you're going to do it anyways, just because you like to get answers, I think the answer is B. On this question, we have a rule that if x and y are not on the same side, the number in front of x is slope. So that's your slope right there. And parallel slopes, if you remember it, there's a poster back there. Parallel slopes are the same. Okay, I don't consider this easy, but if you take the time to know that parallel slopes are the same and you know that the slope is -3, D's your answer. Because parallel slopes are the same. It's not that that's hard, but we just don't talk about parallel slopes enough for that to be easy. So if you use your cheat sheets back there, it definitely makes it easy. All right. This next one is what I wanted to see today. This, y'all need to be able to do. If you can't do this, it's hard to pass your final. Okay? Hard to pass your final if you don't know how to plug these into the calculator. Now, how do I know that this is a calculator question? Or Inspire question? It's not the problem. Good test takers look where? Very good. They look at their answers. And in all my answers, I have y equals. So we're working backwards. We're going to use our answers to help us. So all these say y equals, and I've got points up here. We can check these points. So we're going to start by plugging in A. I want y'all to plug this into your calculator. Now, I know that I'm not walking around today to make sure that you plug it in, but I'm telling you, this is what's going to get you past your midterm. Okay? This is, let's say that there's 35 questions on the test and you're just barely trying to pass it. That means you're only looking for maybe about 15 questions and you're probably guessing C on everything else. Guys, this is one of those 15. We're going to graphs right here. Going to graphs. We're going to type in A, which is 4 over 5x. So A is control divide 4 over 5. So 4 over 5x plus control divide 6 over 5. Hit enter. All right, so after that, we always hit menu 5-1. Now, the thing you got to remember is this is not magic. The answer did not just magically appear. This has nothing to do with our answer. So we have to look back and say, all right, we need this front number to be 4 so I can check this point. So we control that front number, that x. So we're going to type in 4. So we hit 4 and enter. This becomes a 4. Does the point match now? No, it does not. Okay. Now, we know the answer is not A. If you know the calculator, then this is easy to switch it to B. If you don't know the calculator, then you're probably going to start all over and retype everything. I know the calculator. So all I'm going to do is switch this plus to a minus right here. It'll take 2 seconds. We're hit tab. So don't forget about tab. Go up, and then you can just switch that to a minus. It takes 2 seconds to do. Hit enter, menu 5-1. Now, does this point match right here? Yes, 4-2. Now remember, just because one point matches doesn't mean the second point will. So we need to type in -1. So we type in -1, and it should say -1, -2, and it does. And that's your answer right there. Okay, because both of those matched. So if both of those points match right there, that's your answer. So this is what we want to be really, really good at. This is what we got to make sure we know how to do. And trust me, we're going to keep practicing this. All right. This is one we talked about yesterday real quick. How do you tell if something's a function? Just look at all the x's. Do any of the x's repeat? Yeah, the 2 5s, so it's A because the 5s repeat. It's not a function. And like I said, I'm sorry I'm going through some of these quick, but I think y'all know a lot of this. Okay, yesterday I told you the easiest questions on the STAR test were the 0 questions, okay? Well, if you look over here, the word 0 is also connected with x-intercept, which means x-intercepts are also easy. So the 0 was just where does it touch the x-axis? The x-intercept is just where does it touch the x-axis? They're the same thing. So where does that touch the x-axis? -3 right there. So immediately go to your answers. Mark off A because that says the x-intercept is -2. B says the x-intercept is 4. But C and D both have -3. So now we got to look at the y-intercept. So if the x-intercept is where it touches the x-axis, the y-intercept is where it touches the y-axis. It touches at 3 right there. So the only one that has 3 would be D. So the reason that we say this is so easy is because she get both of them. Sweet. She's all caught up. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. They were good. Yeah, I expected her to. If he's not doing anything, I told him if he screwed around, I'm not letting him go no more. All right. So the reason that this is so easy is most kids always come back when they struggle. Like if they fail the STAR test, they always come back and say, but I'm bad at math. And I'm like, what math was involved in that question right there? There was no math involved, was there? Like, where does it touch the x-axis? Where does it touch the y? That's not math, okay? And so, that's what we want, why we call these easy, and these are the easiest ones. So we got to make sure we know zeros, x-intercepts, y-intercepts are really, really easy. No math involved. All right, slope. I don't consider slope to be easy, even though a lot of y'all do, okay? One part of slope I do consider to be easy. Remember the slope dude up there. So the puff, puff positive and the gnarly negative, that skateboarder. All right, so I like to draw a slope dude. Always draw him on the left if you're going to draw a slope dude. Is he skateboarding uphill or downhill? Downhill. So is that positive or negative? Negative. So we can eliminate all the positives. That part's pretty easy. Okay. Now, the actual slope part, you may not be good at. So the actual slope part, we have to find 2 points. And then you do rise over run. So we go down 1 and over 1, 2, 3. And so the answer is D. Just 1 over 3. Now, if you're not good with rise over run, then at this point, I would guess. Okay. And it's not to say that you can't get good at it. I'm not saying that at all, but a lot of kids just struggle with slope. That's just how it is. So if you can at least eliminate the positive or negative, you're doing good. All right, we're not going to go over this, even though y'all might do it. What letter is domain? X. I don't know what the answer is. If y'all want to find it, that's awesome, but I'm moving on. Number 12. Now, I do see y equals here. So I'm already thinking calculator, but they give me the slope and the y-intercept. This is easier than calculator. When they give you slope and y-intercept, if you know y equals mx plus b, or if your eyes work and you can see that poster right there, where it says y equals mx plus b, and it says, this is your slope, and this is your y-intercept, you should not miss this question. Always start with slope. Slope, which is 4, goes in front of x. Which of these puts 4 in front of x? Well, it's not A. B does. C puts a 4, but it's negative. That's not negative, so it's not C. And then D, nope. So the only one that put the slope right here and the y-intercept right there is going to be B. Really easy question, okay? Really, really easy. All right. Number, so clear that out. All right, number 13. All right, 13 and 14 is the big focus today. This is what we have to be awesome on, okay? Why do we need to be awesome with 13? What do you see? And remember, good test takers don't just look at the problem. Their eyes quickly go to the answers. What do we see in these answers here? Y equals. Anytime we see y equals, we're throwing it in the calculator. Now, I do see a point here, so we're going to check that point. If you know slope, you get to eliminate 2 of these. Make your life easier. Slope is negative 5 over 7. Which of these don't have negative 5 over 7? B as a positive and D as a positive, so mark off B and D. Now we're just testing these 2. If you don't know slope, you got to do all of them, okay? So that's why it's good to know slope always goes in front of x. All right, so we're going to go to graphs. We're going to type this in. I would do this with me. This is what y'all need practice on, okay? We want to be awesome at this. So this is question 13. All right. So remember, control divide is your fraction. Minus 5 over 7x. Plus control divide 20 over 7. Hit enter. All right, then we always hit menu 5-1, right? Now, on this one, because they gave us slope, we only have 1 point to check, and it's this 3 right here. So we're going to type in 3 and see if we get negative 5. So we're going to type 3. Remember, this is nothing to us, okay? So we got to make it the first number be a 3. I did. Is this my answer? No. Look. You're good? Okay. So this is not the answer because it says 3 and some decimal. At this point, you probably know it's C, but it takes 2 seconds, guys, to confirm it. What if you accidentally typed in something wrong? Hit tab, go up, and just simply change this to a minus. Menu 5-1, and you can confirm that it is C, 3, -5. You absolutely have to be able to do this. I don't see any way that you can pass the final if you don't know how to do this right here, okay? This is the biggest concept that we do. Yes, sir, and you get cheat sheets. These stay up. That's why when we're talking about this, I always point at the posters, because on the test, if you know the posters at, you got a cheat sheet. If you don't ever look at the posters, you know, you don't even know that there's a cheat sheet right there. So that's why I'm always trying to point them out. All right, now take a look at the next one. It's the same thing. Okay. But this time, instead of writing the point like this in parentheses, they write the points in a table. Now remember, a table is nothing but a collection of points. So we're typing this in and we're checking. Now you can check them all, but at least got to check 2. So we're going to type in this 2x real quick. So go here, we're going to type in 2x, hit enter, menu 5-1. All right, this is nothing to me. I need this first number to be, what was our x? -2. And we're going to see if we get 4. So I'm going to type in -2, hit enter. All right, -2, -4. Is that what we were looking for? Nope. Now, we've given y'all a hint. I don't know if y'all remember this. If you ever get the right number but the wrong sign, change the sign of everything. So if I hit tab and go up, all we have is a 2 here. I'm going to change the sign to a negative. Menu 5-1. All right, is that what we were looking for? -2, 4. Yep, -2, 4. We got to check one more point. 1, -2. So we're going to type in 1. Did we get -2? Yep, that's my answer right there. Okay.